Atlanta, and welcome to a special edition of Upfront Inside the Entertainment Industry. I'm your host, Ray Cornelius, and today we have a treat for you. We have the cast from the Oscar-nominated documentary, Time, and they're going to be talking about their upcoming film, Time 2, Unfinished Business. I'm talking about none other than Fox and Rob Richardson. You all, thank you so much for coming, and welcome to Clark Atlanta University.
Oh, thank you so much for having us, Ray.
Yeah. So when Candace reached out to me, she was like, listen, I've got this amazing duo that's going to talk about their documentary. And when I saw the photograph, I was like, wait a minute. I know who these people are. I had not seen the film, but I remember seeing that iconic black and white photograph of you two sharing a kiss in your car. And so I was like, yeah, let's have that conversation. Saw the movie, and oh man, it's one of those things where you say to yourself, these are real life superheroes. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. These are real life superheroes that took a challenge, that took what seemed like a insurmountable challenge and turned it into an opportunity to help others. If we can we start from the beginning? I always like to start from the beginning. Can we go back and talk about what led you to the situation where you felt that you had to rob that bank to make ends meet? I know you all were the owners of a hip hop clothing store in your town. Times were tough and this happened. So what led to that? And we can start with, you want to start, Fox?
I think I'll let this gentleman
Rob start.
Yeah.
All right, Rob.
Okay, wow. Well, if we go all the way back to 1987, where Fox and I met as high school sweethearts. We met through a mutual friend of ours, and I would have to say that if there is a thing as love at first sight, I think I found love at first sight the moment that Fox came to the door. But she acted like she wasn't feeling me for some reason or another.
You know, Ray. Y'all men think y'all got it all out the box. I couldn't be that easy.
Yeah. So she and her girlfriend were looking to go back to their home school and needed a ride to get there. And I was at home visiting from boot camp home on leave. Okay. And so I decided I would give them a ride, and then giving them the ride, I got to realize, why it is that she had me smitten in the moment. Needless to say, I spoke to her later on that night, and she was shocked as to how it was that I was even able to get her phone number, and let alone that I was calling her, because what I found out later was that the mutual friend of ours was saying that she and I had a thing going on. So it was my intention to dispel that, and more sooner than not. So I utilized a service that we had back in the day called a three-way.
Okay, I remember that.
So I hooked up a three-way phone call. We got our sister on the phone together. To which I think it ended in her hanging up on us, because when she realized that the two of us were on the phone together, and the reason why we were calling, that kind of did it for her, and she was like, okay, I'm out of here.
So y'all settled the matter.
We settled the matter quickly.
And and that's when I fell in love. I said, oh, no, he didn't call Wanda on three-way for me. He loves me.
Okay. Wow. But after probably about a 10-year off-again relationship between Fox and I, we always maintained our friendship, even though our love life was sometimes put on hold. But that being said, we did that for 10 years on and off, and finally about time that I was ready to end the courtship and give up, the things that had gotten in between us before. I asked her to marry me. And she said, what do what you thinking about? What you talking about? Like when? I was like, well, I'd run off tonight and marry you if I could. To which she got on the phone, found us a little chapel in Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Florida, where we eloped, got married probably from, within 30 days of me asking.
And y'all bungee jumped,
and
right?
We bungee jumped.
I was like, what? Okay.
Right. So that was us consummating our marriage that night. In that moment, there's an F with us moment that happens inside of that pendulum swing.
That. Yeah.
And that F with us really had a lot of backstory to it. And the backstory that it had to it was just the fact that we had overcome so many insurmountable odds and naysayers and the whole 9 yards in order to be together in that moment. And to know that we were now tying the knot with one another and making this commitment to one another, this lifelong commitment to one another is what we shouted out over the city of Florida, Orlando that night. And boy, did we know what we were in for a
And
ride
for a
for.
rude awakening.
Right. 6 months later is
Yeah,
when.
6 months later, life just turned upside down. We had purchased our first home. We had launched our first business. And, you know, just when we think that everything was absolutely amazing, our investor pulls out on us. The house we bought had a cracked foundation. Our son had some unexplained health issues. It was just like one thing. When they say open up, you know, and hell pouring out, that's what our lives were, and not being old enough or mature enough to navigate all of this immediate failure. We made the worst decision that we could have ever made as free people of color in the United States of America, and that was to break the law in whatever form. And so we paid a hefty cost where we thinking, you know, we're first-time offenders, nobody received medical treatment in our instance. We are willing to take responsibility for us. What in the world were we thinking? You know, if there's a such thing as where you're temporarily insane, that was definitely a moment for us. I mean, just getting so fixated on the American dream that it could really cause us to make some unwise choices on our journey. And that led us to facing 297 years in prison, with Rob being sentenced to 60 years on a first offense felony in the state of Louisiana.
What I thought was interesting in that you'll learn as someone who's watching Time 2 is that typically you get about 8 years, or typically the prison systems kind of monitor how the other prison systems are convicting, you know, their prisoners. So there's a certain time. You don't go beyond that time. So if Florida's doing 8 or Alabama's doing 8, then we would do 8. But they didn't. They decided not to do that. They gave you pretty much the max.
Oh, without a doubt.
No, the max was 99 years.
Wow.
Right. They ended up sentencing him to 60 years. And our nephew, who was our fall partner, they sentenced him, he didn't even have a weapon, to 45 years at 20 years old. And so what happened to our family, I thought it was really like outside of the usual going-ons in these court proceedings until it happened to us. And that's what happens with most people that are justice involved families. Typically we think it'll never happen to us until it does. And when you talk about America, the largest incarcerator in the entire world, on the whole planet Earth, the most advanced society, industrialized society, locks up more people than any other place on the planet. How can we not think that it may very well, it will happen to our family when 1 in 2 Americans are impacted by a felony conviction?
And we're going to talk more about that. When we return, you're going to hear more about this amazing story. Again, we're talking to Fox and Rob Richardson from the new film, Time 2 Unfinished Business. More up front after the break.
Hi. Can I get the now bar, please?
No problem. $1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hi, can I get a now bar, please?
$1.
Thanks.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Hey, let me get a now bar.
Sure. $1.
Appreciate you.
You got it.
How's it going? Can I get a now bar?
Hey, stop right there! Get down on the ground! Out of your car, right? Get down! Show me your hands! Now!
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. It's here. It's here. Wait. What?
I can't drive.
Why?
I'm high.
Oh.
Welcome back to Upfront Inside the Entertainment Industry. I'm your host, Ray Cornelius, and I'm here with my very special guest from the new documentary, Time to Unfinished Business, Fox and Rob Richardson. You all, let's get back to this amazing story. We talked about in the first half how you all got together and then how your life totally changed. I want to come to you, Fox, and ask, at what point, once all of this took place, Rob was still in prison, you're out. At what point did you say, I'm not going to be a victim and I'm going to fight this?
Oh, you know, it just makes you, to have to reflect to answer your question, I have to look back through that history and go back in my mind to see where, because, you know, I want to share my genuine experience.
Absolutely.
And in reflecting on it, it immediately makes me wail. You know, it's been almost 30 years, but yet the pain is still so surreal about that decision we made that day. And it revisits you throughout the day, no matter what day you're on. And so I think, immediately, I recognized that we had really just messed up our lives, you know, and messed up the lives of our children with our own hands, with our own decision-making process. And it is a heart-wrenching thing to sit in. And, but, you know, we had a choice. We could either dwell in it, we could let it smother us, or we could rise above it with the power of our ancestors, because I also understood that the people that I come from, the cloth that I'm designed out of, they have overcome already the far worst. So who am I not to rise in this moment and still reclaim me, because I believe that I'm still more, my family is more than the worst decision we've ever made. Absolutely. And so knowing that I'm still God's people, that the God I serve is a forgiving God, then I must forgive myself and redeem myself. And then to watch what God has done throughout history with the condemned. You know, it is the condemned that we see God use most in the Bible. You know, black people always reference in the Bible when it's convenient, but when it comes to addressing this pint of blood that so many of us in our community carry. Even now, our own president carries this pint of blood called a felony conviction. We are quick to judge and not be as forgiving with one another. And so for me, it was about forgiving myself. And I think Rob probably helped me most in that moment when he said to me one day, I realized that we lost our confidence, Fox. And if we are going to fight for our lives, we've got to take back our confidence, forgive ourselves, know that God has forgiven us, and move forward with and see what our destiny, what about our destiny lies ahead.
When did you know that you had a film? Because going back and looking at time, and as we said offline, this was reality TV, in my opinion, before there was real reality TV. You were filming your children growing up. You were filming the process of dealing, not having a husband in the home, trying to have conversations with him. When did you know that this was an actual film project?
I will tell you that by telling you the reference point is that the day that we got sentenced, as we were going through this journey of the criminal justice system, both of us hadn't really been exposed to it in this way. We knew, like, man, we have got to tell this story. We're going to overcome this. And when we do, it is worthy of remark. It's worthy of a story. And so probably when Rob got sentenced to 60 years in prison, I was talking to him outside of his parish jail window. Okay. Incarcerated myself, pregnant with twins at the time. He's standing up on a mattress in his cell, trying to squeeze up to the window that's high to have a conversation with me outside on the recreation yard. And he tells me he got a 60-year sentence, and my response to him, Ray Cornelius, was, it's all right, we'll get through it together. It'll make the movie more better, but I promise I won't let go of your hand. And we'll walk this together. And so that has just been the resounding theme. Now, actually, the documentary came from Rob as well. We're about 15 years in. We realized it's like Katrina, no help was coming from nowhere. And if we were going to survive this, we were going to have to save ourselves. In that vein, Rob had seen The 13th by the legendary Ava DuVernay. And he says, baby, I think we need to make a documentary. We've got to raise national attention about our matter because it doesn't look like everybody sees there's something wrong with you getting a practical life sentence, but yet nobody is willing to do anything to help us fix this. Yeah. And so I immediately go back to New Orleans and say, okay, well, let's make a film. And I'm looking around, and then when we go in pursuit of what we're supposed to be doing, God sends us angels, and God sent us the amazing, gifted Garrett Bradley, who was working on a documentary for the New York Times, and had been commissioned to do a documentary for the New York Times, an op-ed piece. And asked to interview me because she was referred by someone in the social justice community. In doing so, I say, hey, Garrett, I'm working to tell this story. Will you help me? Ask the New York Times if they will fund this project. And she went back, they did. And when we wrapped that 15-minute op doc, I shared with her my archive that I had been shooting over 21 years. And at that point, it became a full feature film that could tell a range of our story for over a 21-year time period.
So Rob, if you can, take us back to the night that you all attended the Oscars, because this film was Oscar nominated. Can you take us back? Because at this point, you are a free man.
You should have seen him too, Ray. That boy
y'all
was
looked
bad.
amazing.
Thank you.
Take us back,
Man, wow. That was really a really awesome night because, we had time to really sit in it. They had the driver that came over and picked us up from the Four Seasons Hotel. We had, all kind of fanfare with people out there, screaming and yelling and, really wishing us well, because what we knew in that moment is that the very thing that I think that we left prison with most, and that is that to be free is to free others. We left so many other deserving men and women behind us, and much in the same way that when you think about survivor's guilt, or if you people tend to think about it like when we go off to war and then you get brought back home after you've left somebody else in the jungle and you realize that, man, I've left behind, whomever it is that you thought was equally as deserving. Well, in that moment, in that night, Fox and I had made a commitment that if we ever again afforded an opportunity, we would use our voice for people who were voiceless in this situation, in this moment. So us going to the Oscars was not just Fox and I going to the Oscars. It wasn't just our family.
Yes.
It was
the whole community.
It was the 2.3 million people that
Right.
are impacted by incarceration and the over 70 million people in America living with felony convictions. It was all of our stories on the
Right.
forefront of Hollywood's mind on that night. And, we just couldn't have been more proud.
And to know that we was representing, I had my boy Don Morphy and hooked us up with,
Oh
with
my
an
God.
amazing suit. That's another story in and of itself.
Essie Azinzabo. Not only did Don Morphy dress Rob, he custom made tuxedos for all 6 of our sons to go to the Oscars with us because we couldn't go by ourselves, right, Ray?
Right.
And Essie Azinzabo made my gown that was just absolutely everything.
Yeah,
so
it was.
not only did we show up,
But
we
we
showed
showed
out.
out.
Yeah, we showed out. You know how we black people do. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to leave you alone. We showed out so much that when we hit the red carpet, one of the staffers comes over to me. She says, excuse me, ma'am. And so I'm like intimidated. I'm like, oh, what did I mess something up? We're not where we're supposed to be. I'm trying to feel like, do I really belong here? And the woman says, I just want to tell you, that's the baddest dress I have ever seen. And I've been working here 12 years.
Okay.
You all looked amazing. When we come back, we're going to talk about Time 2 Unfinished Business. More after the break.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Baby, you see, you're so right for me, and I'm right for you. I love the things you do, like sweet tasting wine. Your lips are so divine. Your loving turns me on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One in every 500 African Americans in the U.S. suffers from sickle cell disease. 1 in 3 African American blood donors is a match for patients with sickle cell. 1 appointment to donate blood with the American Red Cross can help save a life. Will you be that one? Visit redcrossblood.org/ourblood today to schedule an appointment at a location near you.
Welcome back to Upfront. I'm your host, Ray Cornelius, and we're talking to the cast from Time 2, Unfinished Business, Fox and Rob Richardson. Let's talk about this second half of this amazing journey. Time, we saw you become a free man. We saw you getting reacclimated back into society. You had the Oscar nomination, but now this second half, we're focusing on your cousin, your nephew, which is more like your brother.
That's right.
Ontario. Let's talk about that, Rob.
Yeah, Ontario was the unfinished business, in Time 2. When I was afforded the opportunity at Clemency in 2018, I was actually the only person out of more than 2,200 applicants that had applied for Clemency that year. And it left us with the responsibility of having to reach back to our nephew because he was not afforded the same opportunity.
Right.
That being said, I had been fighting a piece of legislation for probably all of about 10 years or better.
And can you talk about that? Because I had never heard of that law.
Yeah, in Louisiana, they have, and many other states have them as well, but they have what they call geriatric supervisions of law. But with geriatric supervisions of law, it allows that after serving a certain amount of time, after reaching a certain age, and then having a sentence of a certain amount, that it would afford an opportunity for you to be able to come before the board, basically deliver or present your case, and then they decide whether or not you would be better served in continuous incarceration or return back to society. Okay. That being said, they decided, crazy enough, right at the time that it was time for me to reap the benefit of it, they decided to reinterpret the law. And as a result of it, it really had imbalanced the freedom opportunities for what I thought was maybe 400 to 600 people. But we kept fighting even after I was discharged because I knew that this would be the way out for my nephew potentially, right? And that being said, we continued to fight the effort. It ultimately ended in the passage of a resolution through our state legislature. And when it was passed, not only did it free what we thought was 400 to 600 people, ultimately it afforded more than 3,000 people an opportunity to be free again that thought that they were going to die in prison otherwise.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
So 6 months after we were able to get the law rectified, my nephew walked out of prison doors and returned home to us.
Yeah. As we wrap this up, what is the biggest lesson out of this? I mean, as a viewer, you're watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I don't know how I would have survived this. But what's been the biggest lesson that you felt that you learned out of this?
I think is what I made the theme of the film. This project, Time 2 Unfinished Business, is my directorial debut. Even though the majority of footage in the first time that was Oscar nominated was footage that I shot, this is my first title role as director. And what was most important to me, and the reason why I even wanted to tell the second phase of this story, was because I thought that what we would do with freedom was really the most important part of our story. What would we do now that Rob was free? I just thought also that people in the first film, you don't really get to really understand how Rob was able to get home. So it left people with a real void, and people like my family, that we need this resource. We need to know, how did you do that? How did you bring your loved one home? Because so many of us have a loved one that we're fighting for, or hoping and praying for, if nothing else. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that I could tell this portion of our story, and hence Time 2 Unfinished Business. It tells the theme of to be free is to free others. That is what this is all about. When you have liberty, when you have life, then you have a duty and an obligation to fight for not only your freedom, but the freedom of others. And it's not only our duty to fight, Ray Cornelius, it's our duty to win.
Yeah,
that's right.
Now, we were talking offline about a possible feature film, an actual drama
Speak it on
about
it.
this
Speak it on us.
presentation? Is that
Yes.
something in the works?
Oh, it is definitely in the works. And so Rob and I have already written the full feature script for this story, as we feel like maybe that's the Oscar win that God has for us. But this is a love story, a modern day love story, one of our love stories from our community that we're intentional about telling in a full feature film fashion. So you had some incredible suggestions on your side.
And I want to say, but you know, we're gonna have to keep that to ourselves and try to work that out, because I really felt, just in watching this, I was like, this is great as a documentary, but there was so much to this. A love story, right? This is a film about faith, real faith,
right?
right?
Real.
Being able to show how, when you come together, and what perseverance looks like to be able to change the law, right? To be able to enact legislation to help other people. It wasn't just about your story.
No.
This is about you all helping others.
Yes.
I think when you have all of those three elements, you can tell a really great dramatic story. And I really feel like this is what you all have brewing, and wish a lot of success for that. So what's next? What's next after? After
Man,
this?
it is bringing people together this Juneteenth for Time to Watch, a movement to bring people together across the nation to watch this film, Time to Unfinished Business, and also have a much needed conversation on freedom in the city with the highest prison population per capita, which is New Orleans. And so we're looking to organize national dialogue about freedom and the unfinished business here in America that Black people have, because as long as the exception clause remains in the 13th Amendment to our freedom, then slavery still exists and we are not free.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so very much. I so appreciate just this opportunity to be able to sit down and talk with you. Again, I watched it, and oh my gosh, there were so many moments where I was like, wow, I had to stop, start, cry, pull myself back together. But tell our audience where they can watch these films. That's the most important thing too.
Yes, well, time2movie.com is where they can go to find out more information about our big launch. And then we are looking to launch on Amazon's platform on Juneteenth. So big exciting things up ahead.
Yes, indeed.
Well, Atlanta, I hope you all enjoyed today's show. Thank you for sitting with us and listening to Fox and Rob Richardson from the film Time and Time to Unfinished Business. You'll be able to check it out on Amazon. See you later, Atlanta.